Welcome to another edition of the Dogger Pass podcast. This for UFC 266. I'm Paul Shaughnessy, joined by Cody Saftik. This show is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. If you want to hear about any sweet promos that are coming up here, Pat Mayo's dulcet tones will be joining, as is tradition, a little bit later in the episode. Coming off the heels of a card that I think I was on the right path, and it just didn't work out. It's like Montel Jackson following JP Buys to the ground on like 4 knockdowns. Just like, bro, if you stand, there's no way Buys survives if he doesn't follow him to the ground multiple times. But we're betting on like young, inexperienced fighters. These things happen in MMA. And then the wrong fight. I had the under 2.5, and I bet that because it was minus like 120 versus like fight doesn't go to decision, which was minus 150. And I'm like, that seems like a little bit too much juice. Well, I got greedy and I paid the ultimate price for it. So it's like, I feel like I was on the right path. It should have been a good night. It ended up being a losing night. But that's the game that we play, especially when you're dealing with like lower level competition. This card, we're going back to like, there are some great fights top to bottom. I'm sure you're excited as well, Cody.
Yeah, well, I mean, the game sometimes has bad bounces, Paul, as we all know. Even Contender Series last night. I mean, Jacob Rosales wins the first round, scores a knockdown at the end of the first round. Nobody gives it a 10-8 despite a near finish, and he breaks his hands. Or he broke his hand, loses 2 and 3. Shit happens, right? It's just sometimes you get the favorable bounce, sometimes you don't. But you mentioned it best. It's the low-level fights. There's so much more unpredictability. It's like, does this guy got a ground game? I couldn't tell you. Haven't really seen him on the ground. And if you have seen him on the ground, the opponent was 2-12, and he looked good against that 2-12 opponent. This is a good offering. This is a UFC card stacked pretty much. Well, we'll talk about it. There's actually a questionable guy on the card, but maybe a couple questionable guys on the card. But for the most part, it's high-level martial arts. So how could you not be excited to be breaking these down? And return of Nick Diaz, title fights, you name it. Pumped up for this one.
So we're also on, I believe, Fight Network and Game Plus Network, which is, that is the home of Cody Saftik. That is where Cody makes his bread when he's not on the program with us. So it's good to be back on television. I wonder.
Reunited, and it feels so good.
Reunited, and it feels so good. So happy to be back on with them. Let's get right into the action here because I'm excited to break down these fights. Alexander Volkanovski takes on Brian Ortega in the main event for the UFC Featherweight Championship of the World. Alexander Volkanovski, a minus 170 favorite. Ortega can be had 4+ 150. Take it away, Cody.
I get a bad tendency sometimes that when someone's so dominant, doing so good, you're always looking at that like, well, who's going to be the guy to dethrone him? Who's going to be the guy to dethrone him? Or girl, because I've bet against Amanda Nunes before as well and regretted it.
That's dumb.
But best of all, probably the dumbest play I've made in a very long time is that I thought, geez, Justin Gaethje might go out there and kick off Khabib's leg. And once his leg's compromised, and Gaethje's cast iron, the guy can fight 5 rounds. He's got excellent cardio, winging those hooks and the low calf kick. But in hindsight, how could you bet against Khabib? Israel Adesanya. No, I took Paulo Costa. Why would you take Paul? He's going to pressure him, dude. He's going to pressure him. In hindsight, there's levels to striking, and Izzy's at the highest level of striking. Sometimes there's no reason to bet against these individuals. It's like you're just almost looking to be the contrarian, and you can't be stupid about it. So this is another fight. I think it's super close. I think the line of minus 170 for Alexander Volkanovski might be a tad bit steep. Brian Ortega is as worthy as a challenger as you're possibly going to find. But Alexander Volkanovski has been near perfect so far in the UFC. So why turn your back on him? What doesn't the guy do well? He comes in as just like a stocky little rugby player that'll probably use some power wrestling. But for a guy that picked up wrestling later on in life, he's as good as it gets. He's just very strong. He's able to muscle you to the ground. He's got excellent cardio. As far as fighting at this weight class goes, he used to be like a 240-pound rugby player. At this weight class, he's as strong as it gets. He's got a ring IQ, right? His ability to make changes on the fly, his willingness to win, his heart. He's got the complete package. Now, how does a guy like that get elite level striking? How do you catch up in the elite level striking? And then he goes out and paints 2 great fights against Max Holloway. Now, of course, the first fight, there's moments either side, but he clearly wins. The second fight, there's an argument you can make the other way, but I don't make that argument. I think Alexander Volkanovski dropped the first 2 rounds, and either Max Holloway took his foot off the gas or Alexander Volkanovski made those adjustments. The leg kicks were working excellent for him. The pressure started to work excellent for him. How do you go out there and out-volume Max Holloway? But he goes out there and he does it twice. And so again, when you look at competition as a whole, right, Brian Ortega's had an excellent run where, Cub Swanson is an aged legend. He's at the tail end of his run, but he's got that big name. And Frankie Edgar, tail end of his run, big name. Chang Sung Jung, I'm not going to say tail end of his run, but certainly not in the prime of his career. He's got a big name. He's also got wins over Clay Guida and guys like, Diego Brandao once upon a time. What I'm saying is that the level of competition is like a tad bit past their prime. Now, he has mixed it up with the likes of Max Holloway, where he completely got rearranged. And you've got Alexander Volkanovski, who posts 2 wins of war. I'm not using MMA math. What I'm saying is if you're looking at talent level, Brian's looking exceptionally well against guys at the tail end, whereas Volkanovski's fighting the prime of his career right now. So he comes in here, he makes weight. It's hard to bet against Brian Ortega. I hate to do it. He's a complete package as well. He's got excellent cardio. He's got excellent striking now, certainly worked on it a lot and improved. His power seems to be there, and he's a hardworking individual. He's always going to improve. He neutralizes Volkanovski's wrestling advantage with his jiu-jitsu advantage. So this ends up being a striking battle. And, can Brian Ortega box him up? Possibly. He could do exactly what Max Holloway did, but similar to that fight, Volkanovski just finds a way, right? So I don't want to go against Volkanovski, but I also am not very confident in the Volkanovski play. So I'm kind of looking to pass. But it's the main event of a huge pay-per-view. You're going to have action. The official play will be Volkanovski, but I'm looking to attack this on the overs, over 3.5, over 4.5 fight goes the distance.
I don't know what Volkanovski's done that makes you not confident.
Just Ortega's so talented. That's all.
He is very talented. And the progression that he made in that Chan Sung Jung fight was huge. It showed that this guy has become a complete mixed martial artist. He's, everyone kind of was like, oh, well, he's going to have to get it to the ground. He's going to have to find a sub. That's the only way he's going to. And it's just like, nah, he just outstruck him for 5 rounds, which was super, super impressive. The interesting thing is that somehow, even despite being 2 inches shorter than Brian Ortega, Volkanovski still has a 2-inch reach advantage. That's going to come in really handy. Yeah. And if you are Volkanovski, and he's smart, this guy fights very, very tactically when he has to. I mean, he had, on his rise up, he was able to absolutely clown on guys because the talent gap was so significant. But he's so smart. He's going to fight at range. He's going to treat any sort of tie up. Ortega's wrestling isn't elite by any stretch of the imagination, but all that guy has to do is really just grab a hold of you, and then that makes that changes everything, and he can change the fight in a blink of an eye, right? I think Volkanovski's just going to be too strong. He's going to be able to push him off anytime that Ortega tries to tie up. Obviously, do not shoot for takedowns. There's no reason. And I feel like, again, MMA math obviously doesn't always work out, but, Volkanovski won clearly the first time that him and Max Holloway fought. Second time, some people thought that Max Holloway won, but it was razor close either way. And Ortega, now, the lesser version of himself, got absolutely, that was a career-changing performance, made him go back to the drawing board. He got smacked up so bad for 4 rounds that he couldn't even continue in round 5. I think it's Volkanovski. I like the over because of what Ortega has showed in terms of durability. I actually got in on the over thanks to a friend who tipped me on it when it was minus 105 a couple weeks ago. So I'm in line with you on that. I think Volkanovski wins. I think Volkanovski wins by decision. Moving on down the card. This one, what are we going to even really say? Valentina Shevchenko takes on unlucky Lauren Murphy because she's next in line for, the absolute beatdown that Shevchenko has been putting on this entire flyweight division. Minus 1,500 is the line on Valentina. Plus 850 for unlucky Lauren. Obviously, when you have like minus 1500s, you got to find other ways to play this. And I think inside the distance, I don't have the exact number, but it's like Shevchenko, I believe, inside the distance is like minus 210. That's probably how I think over the course of 5 rounds, she probably gets the job done. But we have seen her in some of her fights. Sometimes she likes to take her time. Sometimes it just doesn't really present itself in the same way. She's so good everywhere, and that grappling has come along so well. I don't think she even has to consider really doing much grappling here, but we kind of thought that last time out that she wouldn't really have to, and then she goes out there and I had posted like a meme on Twitter calling her Shevchenkov, and I put a beard on her because, my God, her wrestling game had taken that next step. She is so good. The only other girl on the planet better than her is Amanda Nunes, and size really matters when you look at the 2 times that those 2 women fight. I mean, breaking news, Shevchenko is my pick. I think she wins inside the distance. What do you think about this one?
Well, I think we're all on the same page that she's going to win the fight. She can win this fight anywhere she chooses to. If she just strictly keeps it standing, she's got more polished, better refined kickboxing skills, better kicks. She's better at range. She's faster. She's got snappier punches. Lauren Murphy is more of a brawler. She's going to get in the pocket. She's going to try to let these overhands go, these hooks go. She's going to try to make it a dirty fight. But against Valentina, like, good luck, man. Good luck. She's just so elite that you can't make it a brawl with her. She just moves so well. She's got such good footwork. But beyond all that, Lauren Murphy's been grinding on opponents. But if you just take Murphy down, takedown defense not great. She's strong. She's physical. Is Jessica Andrade not strong and physical? Come on. You know, when you talk about those levels to this stuff, it's not that Lauren Murphy is not a fine contender. It's that there's just such a large talent gap between her and everybody else. When you look at the 205 division once upon a time with John Jones, it was the exact same huge skill discrepancy. Only John Jones would play with his food. Valentina doesn't seem concerned about that. She goes out there, treats every opponent like it's the biggest fight of her career, takes everything seriously, and gets the victory. Now, you made a great point. She's a little bit not hesitant, patient, right? She's got 5 rounds to work with in all these fights. She's got all the skills in the world. She could end the fight on absolute, even the Andrade fight, man, like that crucifix, she just passes to crucifix, and with a matter of seconds, it's like, oh my God, it's over. Stop this fight. The Caitlin Chikagian fight, she takes 3 rounds to get going, right? She's winning all these rounds easily, but in the 3rd round, it's the same position, right? You get her down. She's got excellent grappling. As far as the stand-up goes, ask Jessica Ai, another durable fighter, until you eat a head kick lopside the head. Like, so yeah, I think we're all agreeing that she wins this fight wherever it takes place and wins it easy, unless the MMA gods somehow cause her to blow out her knee or some crazy instance that sometimes does happen in mixed martial arts. Barring any of that, she gets the victory. What we got to look at here is how many rounds is this thing going to take. Now, DraftKings Sportsbook's letting us know that they think they're setting the over and a half at 2.5, and they're making it at 120. And I'm almost tempted in that. Yeah, we know Valentina can end the fight on a moment's notice, but Lauren Murphy in 4 career defeats, never been knocked out. She also has that loss to Nico Montano on Ultimate Fighter. Wasn't knocked out. It's another decision. She's never actually even been knocked down, right? So her one best attribute throughout her fight career has been her willingness to fight, her desire to scrap. She's durable. She will come forward. She's not going to quit on herself. And for that reason, you almost got to think, could she not maybe fight a Liz Carmouche or a Jennifer Maia type game plan for those early rounds where she does try to grind her up, does keep this fight in tight quarters, and hopefully does keep it standing, lets 2 rounds tick away, and then Valentina more than likely does take over 3, 4, and 5, and could be the first woman to stop her, because Lauren's also not have to fight into these 4th and 5th rounds. So by the time that comes around against Valentina, it's a tough premise, but I'm almost feeling the over 2.5, but overall probably Valentina inside the distance to become the first person to stop her.
That seems all pretty fair. It's a women's flyweight fight. And yeah, obviously they are juicing these, the books are juicing these a little bit more. And we have seen Valentina take her time, be very patient out there, look for her openings. I'm not going to be surprised for it to get over those 2.5 rounds. I'm not going to be surprised if it goes to decision. It's a really tricky spot trying to get a bet on a minus 1,500 favorite here.
Can I just jump in with the last thought there?
Yeah,
I
sure.
hear you. My only issue is Lauren Murphy's 38 years old, and when you look at the wins, right? First of all, Sinjara Eubanks, who wouldn't go around with Valentina, Morella Barella, Andrea Lee,
Yeah.
Roxanne Modafferi, Lilian Shakarova, and
Oh,
Joanne Calderwood is
yeah.
actually legit badass, but she's not Valentina Shevchenko.
I know. I'm not
right?
saying that that Shevchenko. I think it's just really hard trying to decipher what is the best bet in this spot, because if she wins by decision and it's just like Murphy,
Well, the over 2.5, we'd be happy with that.
Yeah. Murphy is just super durable and just somehow survives, and it's like you get to the scorecards and there's multiple 10-8s in there, and we get like, you know, a 50-42 or something like that. But Murphy holds on. I wouldn't be surprised by that type of result, you know. Maybe I'm just like stung a little bit from like certain finishes not happening for me in time last week. But yeah, I don't know. It's I like the over 2.5, I suppose, but yeah, no guarantee on that either. Yeah, I don't have a bet on it yet. We'll see by the time we get to Saturday. I'll watch weigh-ins and see if I have an edge on it. All right, moving on down, we got ruthless Robbie Lawler taking on Nick Diaz. It's a middleweight fight now because Nick said, I don't want to cut weight. Took a day for Robbie to be like, I don't care. I want to get paid. This is a 5-round fight on top of that, which is, Nick Diaz. Nick Diaz plays by his own rules. The Diaz brothers in general play by their own rules when they show up. They tell Dana what they're willing to do. And you got to love it. It's Diaz fight week. Good to have him back. This guy hasn't won a fight in like 8 years, though. So it's really hard to sit here and say anything except for like, if you feel like you really want to put a bet on it, I think Robbie Lawler, that's where the money seems to be moving in right now. Robbie Lawler would be my pick. At this point, it's like, how much tape study can you really do? Because like, is that tape study even relevant to what Nick Diaz is going to show up on fight night here? The one tricky thing I'm looking forward to the weigh-ins. Is there a possibility that Nick Diaz has been walking around heavy this entire camp? Maybe he wants to have like a wrestling game plan because that's how you beat Ruthless Robbie. And he had no intentions of ever making 170 pounds like that. You never know. You can't put that past Nick Diaz. Robbie probably is getting pay-per-view points, and he's more than happy to, he'll do whatever it takes to make sure that this fight happens on Saturday night. But yeah, middleweight fight. Ruthless Robbie is my pick because I have no idea. I'm looking forward to the press conferences and all that stuff. I have no idea what to expect from Nick Diaz at this point. I mean, last time that we saw him was against Anderson Silva, and he's literally just lying down on the ground multiple times, just joking around. Like, it was a complete farce, that entire fight. Now, that was like 5-6 years ago now. It's hard to back him. I don't know what he's got left in the tank, but happy that he's back.
How could you not be happy that he's back? MMA needs characters, and Nick Diaz is foremost one of MMA's great characters. So we're happy to have him back. But everything you mentioned holds true. He hasn't won a fight in 10 years. He hasn't fought in 6 years. And he hasn't looked good since the BJ Penn fight. It's like it's a decade ago. That's his last victory. All of his victories, for the most part, would be considered irrelevant guys. Hayato Sakurai, KJ Noons, Cyborg Santos, the OG original. Paul Daly, I suppose, is still cutting it up in Bellator to a certain extent, right? But, I mean, we got to talk theory. It's all theory, right? Because we don't know what version of Nick Diaz is coming back. He hasn't looked good 10 years ago, or I guess, the last time we saw him against Anderson Silva 6 years ago. Has he suddenly made a ton of improvements? But let's start off with the weight issue, right? So, this is all theory. The last time he made 170 pounds would have been the Georges St. Pierre title fight. So he's got to make a championship weight. That fight is 8.5 years ago.
March 16th, 2013.
Right. 8.5 years ago, he makes 170 pounds. Then he takes 2 years off because he's suspended. He comes back for a super fight with Anderson Silva. Super fight goes down. He's at 185 pounds taking on Anderson. And he totally clowns around. In my heart of hearts, I truthfully do believe Nick Diaz could have won that fight. Unfortunately, he just wasn't doing shit. I mean, he landed 77 strikes. That's not Nick Diaz pace. This is a volume puncher. And yeah, he's fighting a middleweight, a big middleweight at that, and one of the goats of all time. One of the goats, right? It's a tough fight, but yeah, he wasn't fighting like he was trying to win the fight. He was fighting like he was trying to entertain the crowd. And if he comes out here and tries to entertain the crowd, we're both going to win, right? The fans are all going to win in terms of entertainment value. But in terms of a Nick Diaz bet, it's just, it's a little bit tough. So again, he hasn't had to make 170 in a while. He makes 185. Now it's been 6 years since that fight. So look at the fact that when he fought Anderson Silva, he was 32 years old. He can make 185, no problem. He can still make 170 at that point. Now he's coming back to the sport as a 38-year-old man who has not had to make 170 pounds in the last 8.5 years. So no, he can't make 170 pounds. And here's another issue why it's hard to go against Robbie Lawler, right? In the last 6 years, since the last time Nick Diaz competed, in the last 6 years, Nick Diaz has been a train wreck, man. Like, have you seen his Instagram? It's just him drunk all the time and partying. And he makes no sense. He's incoherent half the time. And I can't imagine he's training. Remember back when he was training back in the day for the UFC, he'd be competing in these triathlons. Does he still? Apparently he does once in a while, recreationally. He rides his bike around. But he never drank before. And Jake Shields, one of his best training partners and best friends in this game, went on record to be like he had never tasted alcohol. He wasn't a drinker back when he was fighting competitively before. But over the last 5 years, that's why you see all this nonsense on social media. You know, he's making up for the times when you're a kid, and he was a kid when he started the sport. You don't get to enjoy those moments. You don't go out with your buddies. You don't go party. You're grinding in the gym, trying to be the best martial artist you can be. He got to that level. He fought George St. Pierre for a world title fight and then got a super fight with Anderson Silva. He made his money, and then he kind of went the party route. So over the last 6 years, he hasn't been sharpening his tools, whereas Robbie Lawler's been competing against the best guys in the sport to mix results, but still he's training every day. He's at Sanford MMA. He was at American Top Team. He trains with the best coaches, the best training partners. He won a world title in the time that Nick Diaz has been away from the sport. And again, I mean, what's his kryptonite? Wrestling. Yes, 100%. Neil Magny can take him down. Colby Covington's going to be able to take him down. Rafael Dos Anjos can take him down. Those guys are going to be able to take him down. Nick Diaz? Has he even wrestled over the last 6 years? So yeah, the weight advantage plays towards Diaz. He's probably naturally the bigger man at this point, but it's just hard to get behind him. Now, he is durable as a son of a bitch. So let's look at these overs, Paul. I mean, they got this set as an over 4.5. Yeah, it's gonna be a battle.
Yeah, they are wise. Battle. They are wise. Yeah, they've got fight goes to decision at DraftKings minus 125. I mean, the best price on that right now is at DraftKings Sportsbook. It seems like people are attacking that one across the rest of the industry. I see minus 190s, minus 152. Well, that one's coming back to earth. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, he was durable 6 years ago, but is he showing up for a paycheck?
No.
Is this going to be the best version of him that shows up? It's hard to feel that way. I mean, I feel like those weigh-ins are. I don't expect them to look in like great shape, but I'll be looking real close at my computer, trying to pick up on any sort of tone to his muscles. And this is not a guy who like ever showed up like looking jacked by any stretch of the imagination. But maybe there'll be a tell of like, oh my God, he looks horrible. Robbie should show up looking quite stout. He always does. The guy's always in shape.
He's deezed up. And to be honest with you, I could see Robbie actually using a little bit of his own wrestling. Like if this thing does just become a fast-paced striking battle and Robbie's not favoring it, Diaz has no takedown defense. And where he's got vaunted jiu-jitsu, it's 2021, man. You're not go plotting somebody in the UFC. It's not going to happen, right? So I just got to feel like I got to go with Robbie. Last thing, and then we can move on from this fight, is that Diaz had posted this thing with like him and AJ Agazarm, and they're like kind of like not even sparring. They're just fucking around poolside, throwing some punches. And Diaz's timing looks off. He looks as hittable as he's ever looked. He looks lethargic. And then the clip's like 2 minutes, and 2 minutes in, AJ Agazarm, a guy that wrestled collegiately at Ohio State, BJJ black belt, competes regularly for the Bellator promotion. Like 2 minutes into this clip, he's just got him figured out. And he's just like, I'm looking at a live betting perspective too. I fully expect Robbie to win those early rounds. It's that if Diaz is still Diaz, He's one of these guys that can take over late. The reason why that's not enough for me to pull the trigger is the Anderson Silva fight, and the Nate Diaz fight, for fuck's sakes. It's like the win could be hanging on a carrot. It's dangling, Paul. You see that? It's the win. And instead, they're just like, stalk the motherfucker, what? And it's like, no, bum rush him. Throw some more punches. Don't lie down on the canvas and have a nap. It's so frustrating. So I got to go with Robbie, but I'm so happy to see that Diaz is back, because the excitement level on this fight, it's different than any other fight we've broken down probably this year, to be honest with you. I'm stoked for this. It's a Legends fight, but it's not an Evander Holyfield, Vitor Belfort. You're going to feel bad about it Legends fight. And those are the best kind.
Yep. Hey, the people in the censorship department over at Fight Network and Game
write
Plus.
Write down the time. Put down the time cue. Well, you don't have to do it. Do we not have somebody? Give me a rough estimate. And I'll be able to.
I'm trying to keep it PG here for the ease of access for you guys. But I think you threw 2 F-bombs in that last thing. I mean, you were talking about a Nick Diaz
I was
fight.
pumped
So these
up.
things happen
It was Nick
in
Diaz.
MMA. Hey, I don't want to censor you. Don't censor me. But you guys have people who take care of that stuff. All right, moving on down the card, we've got Curtis Razor Blaydes taking on Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Curtis Blaydes, a -310 favorite. Rozenstruik can be had for +245. I mean, this fight is not exactly rocket science either. Curtis Blaydes is going to take Jairzinho down, and he's going to do it at will, hopefully as early as humanly possible, or he's going to take a canvas nap. I mean, and I think the line is probably pretty close to accurate. I think he does it, like 75% of the time. The wrestling of Curtis Blaydes gets the job done, controls from top position, then it's a question of whether he finishes Rozenstruik or not. But heavyweights and a guy like Blaydes, who what has been his kryptonite, heavy hitting power punchers that don't go away. Obviously we've seen it with Derek Lewis, we saw it with Francis Ngannou twice. Jairzinho Rozenstruik is another guy that's kind of on that pedigree in terms of like the ability to just shut your lights out. 3 rounds I think does favor Curtis Blaydes. He doesn't have to hang in there for 5 rounds. If this was like on a fight night card, 5 rounds for Rozenstruik to get the job done, land that one clean punch on the button, even more dangerous. If I had to, I'll be picking Curtis Blaydes here. If I had to bet this fight, and I'm kind of nervous about it for Blaydes in general, just because we've seen him get knocked out too many times. I see like +400 out there for Rozenstruik by knockout. That's how I would probably approach this fight, if anything.
Yeah, okay, so we're not allowed to swear anymore, but are we allowed to still say apple pie shitter? Because I will tell you something, Curtis Blaydes will end up being that guy for us. I like Curtis Blaydes, love Curtis Blaydes, always like Curtis Blaydes, because he's one of the few heavyweights that can put this wrestling pace, the high-level wrestling, good cardio, and just grind. You're not going to find that ahead. We love that style at any weight class, Paul. That's the winning formula to win a mixed martial arts fight. In his case, he's able to do it at heavyweight, which is just something you don't see very often. However, he's a loss away. If he gets knocked out from Rozenstruik, he's officially the Triple Crown winner, because he's taken on these 3 scariest power punchers the heavyweight division's ever seen, and he has not come up on the positive end of it. Sorry, this is the 3rd time. Francis Ngannou, both times, right? He's the man that knocks him out, but we give him a pass because Francis has just got such freakish power. And then the Derek Lewis fight. It's like, well, Derek Lewis just got freakish power. And now he draws Jairzinho Rozenstruik, which we've already seen the formula to how do you beat Curtis Blaydes? It's not to stuff the takedowns, because you're not going to, right? Or at least he can chain wrestle. You might stuff a takedown or 2, but he's eventually going to get you to the ground and work you over. That's why he has the heavyweight record for most takedowns scored in a single fight. I like the pacing out of him, but we know that if he gets clipped by one of these heavy-handed guys, he's going to topple over. And so the premise of paying a -310 price tag for him is definitely scary. I think you're onto something great here. How does Rozenstruik win this fight? Well, it would be by knockout. He's going to clip him. He's going to knock him out. And they're giving you a +400 tag on that. Seems pretty decent. The flip side of that, is Curtis Blaydes going to finish Rozenstruik? I don't really think so. I mean, yeah, we've seen Rozenstruik get knocked out, not by Curtis Blaydes, by Francis Ngannou.
Mm-hmm.
Besides that, it seems like he's durable enough that if you just ground him, and it's not like Curtis Blaydes is just ground and pound all the time, pace. Like sometimes the Volkov fight is a great example. Sometimes it's about you take him down, you try to get position, you try to hold him down a little bit, you kill a little time off the clock, he gets back up, you peel him back down. He takes that approach, and I think he will. I think he gets the victory. And I think if I'm trying to sweeten up a straight up Curtis Blaydes play, I think you go with him by decision. Keep in mind, he just got knocked out by Derek Lewis, and it was a fight that when you would go back and you would watch the tape,
Fought really
you'd be very
dumb.
frustrated.
He fought really dumb in round one, man.
Exactly, and I think you can learn from that.
Yeah, you got to take him down. You got to ground him. You got to do that as quickly as possible, as safely as possible.
Yeah.
Because if you don't do that, I mean, he was fighting Derek Lewis's fight. And then when he finally ducked his head in round 2 to go get it, well, he was met with an uppercut. But it's like if you drain these power punchers in round 1, you gotta wear them down. That punch is a little bit less powerful. Now we're talking about Derek Lewis, who just has the death touch at the strangest times in fights in general. But yeah, I mean it's a game of Russian roulette when you deal with some of these heavy hitters in the heavyweight division. So laying the minus 300s that you see out there, minus 350 even in some spots, like that's risky biz, man. We got Blaydes by decision is coming in at plus 200. Yeah, I think that's pretty reasonable, I would say. I like where your head's at on that one. I guess either Blaydes by decision at plus 200 or Rozenstruik by knockout plus 400. Pick your poison. Moving on down the card, we have Jessica Andrade taking on Cynthia Calvillo, minus 275 Andrade, plus 220 for Calvillo. I think Jessica Andrade kills her. I don't even think this is going to be particularly close. And I know Cynthia Calvillo hasn't been finished in MMA. She did get submitted by Danielle Kelly in Quintet Ultra. But, she's been very, very durable. She's super, super tough. But I look at the opponents that she has had. And obviously she's coming off of a loss against Caitlin Shukagian. It's just like Jessica Andrade is a whole different beast who hits incredible. Like, this is not a division where people, I mean, we were talking about the best fighter in this division maybe getting over 2.5 rounds in a fight that she's a minus 1,500 favorite. Jessica Andrade is not that girl. She is a body snatcher. She has been finished in her own right, but being able to beat Rose Namajunas by the slam, being able to knock out Karolina Kowalkiewicz, who was super, super durable at that point in time. Hooks to the body against Caitlin Shukagian, who's super, super durable. It's like, I feel like Cynthia Calvillo's biting off a little bit more than she can chew here. She's going to need to outmuscle Andrade. And Andrade is just, built like a stovepipe. Super, super, super strong. I don't like this whatsoever for Calvillo. And when they're hanging out on the feet, like, I don't see enough like pop coming out of those punches to really deter Jessica Andrade. I like Andrade inside the distance. I think she becomes the first woman to finish Cynthia Calvillo. And the price tag on Andrade inside the distance is about plus 150. Don't love it, but that's how I would approach this fight. What about you?
Yeah, I definitely would like to take Jessica Andrade. I think that she's the superior fighter. Again, this is another fighter that, at her best, right, wins in every area of the fight. You're going to keep it standing with her? No way. She's going to John Lineker you. She's going to be backing you up, putting pressure on you, letting those hooks fly. Excellent strikers have tried to stand up to her, and it's just like volume and pressure and staying in your face. As far as the wrestling goes, she's got excellent offensive wrestling because she's so damn strong. She'll pick you up. She'll slam you. She'll peel you to the mat. She'll BJJ black belt, right? Excellent grappling skills, good submission game. So she's extremely well-rounded. And I just think that she beats Cynthia Calvillo in every one aspect. If I'm going to play devil's advocate to just any point so we can at least see what's our worst case scenario, is that it doesn't appear that Jessica Andrade is the best defensive wrestler.
No.
What I mean by that is that you look at the last fight, and yes, it is Valentina Shevchenko, 7 takedowns. No one really expected Valentina to just toss her around so effortlessly. And once the fight was on the ground, despite the fact that Andrade was a BJJ black belt, she offered up very little. I mean, she did get routed in that fight. If you look at other fights where she takes it down, she got taken down twice by Tisha Torres. Again, this is years ago now, but not known for her wrestling. You know, she gives up a takedown. Well, I guess at that point, Raquel Pennington is gigantic, so you can't discredit her too much. She hasn't really fought anybody that went out with the game plan of, I'm going to take you down, I'm going to grind you. She takes on girls that she's either going to have these advantages everywhere, but are predominantly strikers. Zhang Weili, Rose Namajunas, Caitlin Chukagian, Valentina Shevchenko, Karolina Kowalkiewicz, Tisha Torres, Claudia Gadelia. For the most part, there's not been any of these fighters that you would label as a wrestler per se. Cynthia Calvillo got to be smart enough to realize, I don't want to exchange with Jessica Andrade for 15 minutes on the feet. But she's much shorter than I am. At 125, even though she's so physically strong, it's a better weight class for Cynthia Calvillo. She's going to be slightly bigger, I believe. And she does have that wrestling acumen. So if she can just keep Andrade on the outside with her jab, cause Andrade to overcommit to something, duck under, get this fight to the ground, she could have pockets of success with her top game. But I'm not in the market of, this is not Cynthia Calvillo on an excellent little run right now, and she's going to come out here and shock the world. She's coming off a loss to Caitlin Chukagian. I thought she looked extremely flat before that. The fights at 115 that she was having, she was missing weight, again, coming up flat. And let's not forget, she is 34 years old, so I don't know what kind of grand improvements can be made. Jessica Andrade, meanwhile, it's an experience level thing, right? All of her losses are to like the former champions of the division, the best girls in the sport, the best of the best, the creme de la creme. So can we not give her a pass on those? Okay, let's give her a pass on those. Well, what about anybody who's not a former world champion? Oh yeah, she crushes. Well, how is she going to do in this fight? Probably crushes. But I'd be lying if I said it's a complete walkover and I wasn't worried. I think that Calvillo does have a path to victory, but imposing your will on Jessica Andrade is a lot easier said than done.
100%. All right, moving on and down the card, we have Merab Dvalishvili taking on Marlon Moraes. Dvalishvili minus 260. Moraes can be had for plus 210. I mean, we've seen it enough with Magic Marlon Moraes at this point. How does he win fights? Well, it ends up coming down to him basically finishing early. This guy's gas tank is incredibly questionable, and he's taking on Merab, who seemingly has an endless gas tank and insane pressure moving forward. But this is a massive step up in competition for Merab, and Merab likes to drag fights out. He obviously basically wears you down, beats you down, and that's how he does his best work in MMA. The biggest struggle, I feel like at this price, you know, they're aware that Magic Marlon Moraes probably has to get it done in the first, 7.5 minutes of the fight. He's got to land. He's got to land clean. He's got to get the job done that way. I feel like essentially what's happening here is this fight just screams much better live betting opportunity, in my opinion, than getting heavily invested pre-fight. I expect Marlon Moraes to look good early. I expect that live entry or the live opportunity to be better after the first 2 minutes of this fight on Merab, hoping that he doesn't get his head knocked off into the third row in the first, minute or two. That is the real key here. I think you get in on this fight in the live markets. I think that's the better place to do it. I also, maybe you can talk me off of this, but I think as this fight goes on, and this covers, Magic, I gotta keep calling him Magic Marlon. Marlon Moraes' path to victory. The under 2.5 rounds, plus 160. I know that, Dvalishvili typically goes to decision, but Moraes kind of, if he doesn't get you out of there, and the level or the pace and the speed that Merab fights at, I wouldn't be surprised to see Merab get a late finish on him in this spot either. So Merab Dvalishvili, probably late finish is how I see this fight playing out. But I'm more interested from a live perspective because I want to make sure that Merab doesn't get his head knocked off.
Yeah, in Marlon Moraes' case, his gift is his curse, right? He won a World Series of Fighting title. He signed a big money contract when he came over to UFC, and as a result, they're doing him no favors. I believe he makes a disclosed $125,000 base plus an additional $125,000 to win. So this guy makes $250,000 in victory, and as a result, the UFC is not looking to get him necessarily a victory. They're looking to give him the best guys that they can, and he's going to have to earn it tooth and nail. And it's just so hard to get your confidence back going. That being the case, I mean, Corey Sandhagen wheel kick. Oh, how does a man come back from that? But you're expected to come back from that in a 2-month turnaround time. 2-month turnaround time to fight Rob Font. Well, what do you think was going to happen, Paul? The guy was obviously not quite there. You're still going to be chinny. No idea how he got cleared. And as a result, Rob Font takes him out inside of one singular round. So it's not been a great run for him. They're not coming back. The UFC's like, well, we're half worried about his health. So we're not going to give him another top power puncher in the division, but they're giving him another top guy in the division, Merab Dvalishvili. And yeah, it's probably going to be better for his head, right? But now he's going to use his grappling skills big time because Merab just keeps coming at you. He's a very, very, very difficult style to deal with. And he's a difficult style to deal with when you're 33 years old, coming off back-to-back knockout losses. You know, questionably, some people thought he lost the Jose Aldo fight, but I thought he won it. And then before that, he's knocked out by Henry Cejudo in a fight where he flat out gasses after the first round. So it hasn't been the greatest run for Marlon, but at his best, he's a far better striker than Merab Dvalishvili. At his best, he used to fight 5-round fights. 3 rounds shouldn't be a problem for him. At his best, he's got good takedown defense. And if he keeps this thing standing, he'll have a ton of success. It's just, I don't think he's no longer at his best. So I think that your Merab Dvalishvili, you know, you should just go out there with the same game plan you always do. Put your pace on him, put your grind on him. And even if you do lose the first round, and I'm agreeing with you, even through the first 2 or 3 minutes, Marlon probably stops the first 2 shots, right? He lands a couple shots. He might even sting Merab Dvalishvili. And everyone's like, oh no, I seriously underestimated Marlon. But it seems like gas tank is an issue. And at 33 years old, I don't see it getting any better. Last but not least, he had been with Mark Henry for the best days of his career, right? I mean, that's when he was fighting at his optimus prime. Anyways, he leaves and he goes to Florida and he like hung around ATT a little bit and he kind of does his own thing on the side. And the results are just not quite there anymore. This fight is effectively 9 months after his last knockout loss. So I don't expect him to be chinny, but you're not necessarily wrong with your under 2.5. I unfortunately think Merab Dvalishvili does not care about finishing these guys. Everything he fights is a decision, and he's fought in some pretty low-level guys. Meanwhile, with Marlon, if we are going to give him a pass, and, you know, we've been fighting elite-level competition, it's that, yeah, it does take a top 5, top 10 guy to knock him out. Rob Font's an excellent striker. Corey Sandhagen is an excellent striker. Last but not least, Henry Cejudo, you know, the champ. Guy's one of the best to do it, and he wore him down. So wearing him down will be the name of the game. Takedowns will be the name of the game, but I think I'm going to go with the Dvalishvili by decision.
What about Merab round 3 plus 1,200?
If he's going to get him out of there, well, you know, you never know with Marlon. He could knock him out in the first, right? Like, is his chin all the way gone? Who knows? But more than likely, you'd be looking at that 3rd round because, yeah, grind him. First round might be close, but he's starting to tire. Second round, Merab Dvalishvili, because he's landed 4 more takedowns. And then the 3rd round, just put him in a compromising position and just keep punching. And if the referee's Mark Smith, worst referee in the game, he's just going to stop it, right? So you need certain referees, certain spots, but I wouldn't say it's outright out of the question. I would say Merab Dvalishvili's, you know, made a pretty good reputation of just grinding these guys down and winning the decision by any means, right?
100%.
UFC 266 is coming at you fast, and DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of UFC, has a knockout offer for this weekend's fight. DraftKings is offering new customers $150 in free bets instantly if you bet just $1 on any fight before the main event. That's right. Bet $1 on any UFC 266 fight, and DraftKings Sportsbook will give you $150 in free bets instantly. Don't worry if MMA isn't for you. DraftKings Sportsbook offers great odds and promotions on football, golf, and so much more. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. And the best part is you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Don't miss out on all the action of UFC 266 with DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of UFC. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code DOP. when you sign up to receive $150 in free bets instantly if you bet $1 on UFC 266. That's code DOP to receive $150 instantly only on DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. New Jersey, Indiana, and Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Winnings paid out in site credits. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or in Indiana, 1-800-9-WITH-IT.
All right, we got Dan Hooker taking on Nasrat Haqparast, minus 145 Hooker, plus 125 Haqparast. There was a little bit of worry about this one last week when it seemed like Dan Hooker wasn't going to be able to get a visa to leave New Zealand to come and fight in America. Then he ended up, he posts this thing to social media and everybody's, oh, great, he's gonna have an opportunity. I believe he's flying in on Thursday. He's gonna basically get there, he's gonna get to Vegas at night. And then he's got to cut weight and then be up the next morning to step on the scales. It's a horrible, I've spent 8 months living in New Zealand. I've traveled back. I've done that 12-hour flight to LAX. And then he'll probably have another little short flight after that. It's tough. It throws off all of your biorhythms and stuff. Hopefully he can sleep on a plane. So that all seemed like, oh, maybe this is an opening for Nasrat Haqparast. I like Dan Hooker just based on his durability and his technical skill and what I believe is a much, much harder record and strength of schedule that he's had throughout his career. Now it sounds like Nasrat Haqparast is struggling with visa issues and he doesn't know if he's going to be able to get here. Who knows if this fight's going to end up happening, but I have to go. I was thinking it was going to be a really, really tough spot for Hooker, and it is. But now that Haqparast has his own visa issues, I'm back on Dan Hooker. I think even if his weigh-ins, hopefully he's able to sleep on a plane. That's a real key thing that is going to help him significantly, and I don't have the answer for that. So there's definitely red flags on both sides of this matchup, and hopefully we get to see them step on the scale and everything works out to plan, and we get to see them fight on Saturday. But Dan Hooker would be my pick here. I think the durability is on point for him, and I think he's a better striker, more voluminous. Hooker for me. What about you?
Yeah, Dan Hooker has legendary durability, but he did just get knocked out by Michael Chandler in his last fight. Of course, I don't think that means he's chinny. Yeah, right. Chandler is one hell of a hitter. It's just it's worth mentioning that this guy has had traditionally an absolute cast iron chin, and someone did eventually break through. So Nasrat could have that puncher's chance, but I got to go with Dan Hooker as well. And it pains me to say that. Nasrat Haqparast has been one of my guys. I've stuck by this guy's side. He's still so young. He's still only 26 years old, and yet he's been fighting in the UFC for a long time. He debuted against Marcin Held. Talk about a difficult debut at the time for a young fighter. And since then, he's progressively made improvements to his overall game. He's a good striker, good southpaw, nice rangy left hand. The takedown defense pretty solid, decent enough cardio. It's just he's not jumping up to that elite level soon enough. I really don't think so, right? His wins, Mark Diaz, he's a bottom feeder of the UFC currently. Tibau Gaudi's released from the promotion. Joaquim Silva, I believe, is also released from the promotion. But we back him. We pay stupid, ridiculous, price tags on him because he's always this big favorite. And then we get the Drew Dober fight. We back him here. Again, he is a minus 350 favorite over Drew Dober, and he gets folded up big time. Minute 10 seconds into the first round, Dober lands. Again, you can make the argument Dober's another one of these big, heavy-handed guys, but truthfully, that was his first step up. It wasn't just that it was Drew Dober, and Drew Dober's an excellent striker. It was that was the first time he was stepping up in competition. Prior to that, he had been kind of fed lower-level guys and almost always universally came in as a big favorite. The fact that he was a minus 350 favorite over Drew Dober shows that the hype was behind him, and it wasn't warranted. He rebounds by beating Alex Munoz, but he didn't look all that good. And then his last fight against Rafa Garcia, he wins, lands 100 significant strikes, but doesn't look all that good. Mind you, Rafa Garcia looked pretty decent against him, and then turned out to be an outright fraud.
Turned out to look like Rafa Garcia against Gritzmacher in his follow-up fight. So it's kind of like the only shocking thing about this is that, this line is incredibly tight. It seems like a great
line's
money-making
incredibly tight.
opportunity against for Hooker, to be perfectly honest. And now that
Yeah.
Nasrat has his own visa issues and probably has his own travel issues getting over here, like that levels the bar. I feel like I'm either going to win a lot or lose a lot of money on Dan Hooker this weekend. Or the fight will get scrapped and then I'll just get voided.
I know. That's why it's like I want to pull my trigger right now, but I don't want my money locked up if the fight doesn't happen, right? And the book's like, yeah, we'll refund it if the fight don't happen in 30 days. And it's like, anyways, doesn't matter. The main thing is hopefully it's going to happen because it's going to be an exciting fight. But again, with Nasrat, he had that one step up against Drew Dober, failed, and then the next two fights after that, even the Garcia fight, okay? Just two more things to bear in mind. One, Rafa Garcia took the fight on short notice, right? So he looked good against him, and he was even on short notice. And then Rafa's subsequent fight with Grutzmacher, right? Grutzmacher put pace on him, and it completely broke him apart. Nasrat should have been that. He landed 100 significant strikes, but he's not really pushing a big pace. And so last but certainly not least, because this is the biggest thing that swings it for Dan Hooker, in my opinion, is that Haqparast has traditionally been a slow starter, and Dan Hooker is a fast starter. And in a 3-round fight, I'll be damned, it's going to be very difficult to defeat Dan Hooker. This is a guy that went out there and destroyed Ali Quinta over 3 rounds, knocked him down, all very difficult stuff to do. Fall performance against Paul Felder, it's a 5-rounder. He dominates Felder through 3, Paul. 4 and 5, the damage starts to wear up, he slows down. If it's a 3-round fight, Hooker looks like $1 million and wins a 30-27. He fights Dustin Poirier. Oh, man. Imagine that was a 3-round fight. Dan Hooker would have defeated Dustin Poirier over the course of 3 rounds. But the longer the thing goes, the damage starts to accumulate. And then Michael Chandler's Michael Chandler, right? Let's not discredit him. So against Nasrat, if he comes out there and takes his time, Hooker's not going to give him a chance to breathe. He'll win the first round. Then the line's going to swell in Hooker's favor. Hooker probably wins the second round as well. And if his chin is still cast iron, if he's still got that durability, then at worst, he drops the 3rd round in a bloody war and then still ends up winning this thing on a 29-28. So in a 3-round fight, I got Dan Hooker all day here.
All right, we move on down the card. We got Chris Daukaus taking on Shamil Abdurakhimov. Chris Daukaus is a -200 favorite. Shamil can be had for +170. Shamil hasn't fought since 2019, and he's 40 years old entering this fight. Feel like he's super, like the speed advantage should be massive here for Chris Daukaus, who, I mean, I wasn't very high on him when he first entered the UFC, but he's looked the part. He looks like almost kind of like, I'm sure he doesn't have the wrestling like Stipe, but like just being able to be a lot faster than these old guys in this division has been a massive advantage that Stipe used, for his run to the title. I'm not saying that Chris Daukaus is going to make a run for the title, but he's looked really, really good every single step of the way here. He's making improvements every single fight. Shamil hasn't fought, as I said, since 2019. He was super, super slow, plodding back then. I can only imagine, these things don't get better typically with age. I expect Daukaus to get the job done. I expect him to get the job done, but the over/under is 1.5 rounds on this, and I'm not too sure which side of that. I could see it getting over that 1.5, and we have a little bit of a later finish, and then that'll kind of show us Daukaus's cardio and whether that checks out over the course of 3 rounds. But I think Daukaus just dances around Shamil, and honestly, Shamil's basically almost on the level with like Oleinik at this point. Maybe a little faster than Oleinik. Man, those last few fights for my boy Alexei were super, super ugly. But I'm not expecting much from Shamil in this spot, are you?
No. Not only is he 40 years old, but this is his first fight in 2 years. Said fight 2 years ago, he got throttled, and I mean throttled by Curtis Blaydes. And then when you consider his win before that, ultra impressive, Marcin Tybura. He beat Tybura. Tybura got knocked out by Augusto Sakai in a subsequent fight. It was a total write-off. Maybe should retire, go back to KSW, and has reinvented himself with a 5-fight winning streak, all in the period of time that Abdurakhimov has been sitting on the sideline. So I don't think it's getting all that much better. It is heavyweight. We always got puncher's chance in MMA, but it's especially so at heavyweight. And Abdurakhimov can strike. He can crack. He's got some decent power. So as long as Daukaus doesn't get too cute out there, minds his P's and Q's, Yeah, he's got a technical boxing advantage. He's got a speed advantage. He's 9 years younger. He's got a decent grappling game. I don't know how good his wrestling is. I'd love to see him plant Abdurakhimov on his back. I don't see that actually happening. But if the fight was to hit the ground, he does have good grappling. BJJ black belt, tough, sturdy guy. And, as barring he doesn't get clipped with something, and again, it is possible, but barring he doesn't get clipped with something, I think he's got a lot of advantages here. And he's surging. The UFC knows what they're doing, is that like any division, it's like we're trying to build stars within division. So at something like 135 pounds, you got so many stars within it, it's like it's murderer's row. They all got to fight each other. Poor Marlon Moraes got to fight Merab Dvalishvili coming off a 2-fight losing streak. Fights like heavyweight, you need to start building these guys. So what they do is they give Tom Aspinall a fight like Sergey Spivak. It's a fight where he could shine. And if he's not for real, he's going to fold. But he does shine, and right away you see the marketing machine jump behind him. Why? Because he's a young, good-looking, mobile heavyweight, and they're looking for that next generation. Heavyweight's always been an old weight class, right? Along the best heavyweight competitors are usually 35, 38, 40 years old even. You can fight later on, but you need that next young crop of guys that you can start developing now. As far as they're concerned with Abdurakhimov, he's been sitting on the sidelines for 2 years. He's 40 years old. He's about a 50-50 fighter within the UFC. All 3 of his losses for the organization are all by knockout. What's the upside? So you know what they do? They book him with Cyril Gane. And they're like, yeah, fight Cyril Gane. And then he ends up pulling out of the fight. So then they book him against Chris Daukaus the first time, and the bout gets rescheduled. So they got a second booking for a week later, and Abdurakhimov pulls out with COVID, right? So has that benefited this 40-year-old man who hasn't fought in 2 years? I'm going to say no, right? And then the UFC is still like, don't worry about it. As soon as you get a negative test, we'll book this thing back, right? So they know what they're doing, and it's up to Daukaus to go out and execute. What I've seen so far, it looks like he's on his way to doing that.
All right, moving on down. This one's a real tricky one for me, Cody. We got Taila Santos taking on Roxanne Modafferi. Taila Santos is a minus 410 favorite. Roxanne can be had for plus 310. I mean, we've made some jokes and made fun of Roxanne over the years, but what you can really expect from her is she's super, super durable. Athleticism, not exactly off the charts by any stretch of the imagination. Will to compete on a different level. She is very, very tough, gritty. She wasn't expected to be here. Nobody expected her to be here over the years. And, just from her own will, she's been able to stick around in this game for quite a long time. Now, I am aware that, she was supposed to fight. She had a torn meniscus coming into this matchup. And here's the thing about it. A lot of people, I would be really concerned about it. With her, it's a little bit less of a concern because you're not really betting her based on mobility. That wasn't really what I expected to be part of the package. Is she going to be as mobile? Probably not, but she wasn't really all that mobile to begin with. The real question here is Taila Santos going to be able to stop the grappling exchanges? Because if this hangs out on the feet, I don't really pick Roxy to beat anybody in striking exchanges. The price on Taila Santos is just a little bit too much for comfort. The question becomes, again, do we bet Roxanne Modafferi at plus 310?
If you're asking me the question, I just can't do it. But I know a lot of people have made some good money. I haven't made the bet yet because
spam
betting Roxanne Modafferi fights. I know.
I can't bet Taila at this price.
Yeah, you know what? I'll give her this, right? These are her victories in the UFC since that title fight, right? So she cashed her versus Barbonchak. She's a plus 115. Her versus Antonina Shevchenko. She's a plus 225. Her versus Macy Barber. She's a plus 525. And her versus Andrea Lee, she's a plus 260. So is she capable of cashing a tasty plus money ticket? Hells yeah. That's Roxanne Modafferi. Perennial underdog. Always the underdog. But I mean, there is a good reason for that. And she's another one of these fighters. She's 38 years old. She's coming in with a torn meniscus. She actually pulled out of this Taila Santos fight 4 months ago with a torn meniscus. So why was she pulling out of a fight with it then and is able to fight with it now? And in fact, she pulls out of a fight with Taila Santos with a torn meniscus and then 2 months later takes a grappling match and loses by heel hook. So it's not the most, she's the happy warrior. She's willing to get in there. She's willing to engage. She's willing to scrap. She'll fight anybody, anytime, anywhere. But it's like there's a reason she's always the underdog. It's like you're not really expecting her to win. So what does she do excellent? She's got judo black belt, BJJ black belt. If she does end up in top position, she's going to be a problem for you. Zero athleticism standing, as you mentioned, no footwork, very hittable. But she's starting to work her striking a little bit in the sense that she'll throw out that jab. She'll throw out a bunch of kicks because, she wants you to take her down and she can try to use some of that jiu-jitsu. But she's very quirky and unorthodox, and I think for fighters it's very difficult to prepare for. But the fighters that she's defeated have been all fraudulent, right? Andrea Lee was a fraud. Macy Barber's I guess she's kind of reinvented. She's so young, she'll be back. But it was teetering fraud, right? And then Antonina Shevchenko is not her sister Valentina. Keep that in mind. With Taila Santos, I'm not fully sold on this girl either.
No.
The one thing that I am actually half sold on is for 2 rounds, this girl is a problem. She is strong. She's got brick wall hips, good takedown defense. Striking, I'd like to see a little more volume out of her, but everything's pretty crisp. Big leg kicks on her, and everything's power, power, power. She does tend to get very tired the later the fight takes place, and generally ends up dropping that 3rd round. I thought the Jillian Robertson fight her last time out, she looked overall a little bit improved in the cardio aspect. And this fight with Roxanne Modafferi, I don't see Roxanne taking her down, at least not for the first 2 rounds. In those first 2 rounds, Roxanne's not going to outstrike her, I don't believe. And so we're going to have a classic 3rd round scenario where Taila Santos is going to be tired. Roxanne's going to try to make a comeback. But again, I'm not sold on Roxanne's. Her submission game's okay, but she's not winning submissions. She's winning decisions, right? She's able to take you down and control you. I don't think Taylor's that fighter. So is 410 wide for a women's MMA fight of this nature? Yeah, absolutely. And has Roxanne Modafferi not blown a few tickets in the past? Yes, absolutely. She has. Buyers beware there. But at this stage in the game, Taila Santos is the rightful favorite. I just have a hard time going the other way.
Cody, we've got an issue here though. Nico Montano. So her UFC debut, her proper UFC debut. Obviously, she lost to Sijara Eubanks on The Ultimate Fighter, but then ended up taking her spot in the finals. So Nico Montano takes the L there. Barb Honchak gets a dub.
Oh, no.
Sijara Eubanks takes the L there. Antonina Shevchenko win. Jennifer Maya loss. Macy Barber win. Lauren Murphy loss. Andrea Lee win. Viviane Araujo loss. And here we are with her as a plus 310 dog. You better watch out, kid. I'll check out the weigh-ins first before I do anything about it. But I'm not going to be touching Taila Santos. I just can't do it. Not at this price. I don't think he's proven enough. And you know me. It pains me to even consider betting Roxanne Modafferi, particularly coming off of injury. It all seems like bad news, but value is value. And I think the value is squarely on Roxanne at plus 310, if anything. But on Twitter at Paul Shag, I'll be posting all of my plays as is tradition. Moving on down, we got Uros Medic taking on Jalin Turner, minus 120 Medic. I don't know how to pronounce that one. Jalin Turner can be had for plus 100. Who you got here?
I'm favoring like a dog or pass type situation. I feel like we don't have a ton of underdogs on this card. Jalin Turner is the plus 100s. It's not like you're getting anything great out of him. It's a 50-50 fight. It's not one you're going to want a ton of investment on. It's not one that you're going to feel totally comfortable with. But looking at Uros Medic is that he had fought for Alaska FC against bottom level competition. He looks extremely strong. He looks like a physical guy, but he could very well be a Lewis Koski or Ryan Koski. Like he could be one of these guys that can bum rush lower level opposition, get the win. But beyond that, what's his game look like? I don't know because he hasn't had to actually go there. Picks up a 5-0 record for Alaska FC, debuts on Contender Series. So now he's got a big opportunity. And that's where he does an excellent job. He leaves the confines of Alaska and actually goes down to King's MMA. He's getting in some excellent work there with one of the best gyms in the world. And you do see the improvements out of him. Unfortunately, not his fault, but unfortunately, he knocks out this Mikey Gonzalez 221 in the first round, swarms him. You see he's got big power in his hands, but it's a lot more of the same. So now the UFC signs him because on the Contender Series, if you win, especially if you get a first round finish, you're getting a contract. He comes into the UFC, they gave him Alon Cruz, and it's much of the same. He goes out there, he finishes Cruz inside of 2 minutes, I believe, gets the knockout. And again, it's another spot where he's this big, strong, physical guy, but I don't know how he's going to hold up the later rounds go. In the case of Jalin Turner, 5 pro losses, and he has been knocked out 3 times, right? I mean, you could make a case that some of those Vicente Luques, he only got to knock him out in the UFC, and that's a high-level loss. That's no problem. It's that he's been fighting, for the most part, a middling level of competition. Now, he's going to come in here with, I think, a 4.5-inch reach advantage. So what I'd like to believe is that he's going to be able to use that reach advantage, stay to the outside, keep him at bay. And this isn't the Apex. This is the full-size octagon, right? They're fighting at the T-Mobile Arena. It's a big pay-per-view. So he's going to have distance to work with. He's going to have space to work with. And I do think he's probably the cleaner, more refined striker. As far as big-time experience goes, at least we've seen him go 3 rounds. At least we've seen him go a few rounds. And at least we've seen a little bit of grappling out of him as well. So I would like to believe that he could have some skills to make this happen. The 4.5 reach advantage in a big octagon certainly not going to hurt. And I feel like Turner could be live. So it's -120 Medic for comeback, +100 on Turner. I'm labeling this as a dog or pass. Really not getting any plus money on it. But as far as the confidence level and the priority list betting this weekend, it's a 13-fight card currently because Mano Fioro fell off. So 13-fight card, there's better spots in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like an underplay on this fight is really what's in order.
You know what? Uros Medic has never fought beyond 6.5 minutes, so I would say that the underplay is probably an excellent.
1.5s are always a little bit dicey, but that's +150,
Yeah.
so I don't think that's a very bad spot. And if you can find a 2.5 rounder out in the interwebs, yeah, I see under 2.5 is juiced to -135 at one shop. I think that's the way to go about it. Obviously, eating a whole bunch of juice on that, but we don't know what we don't know what Medic looks like outside of the first round, let alone into round 3. So that's how I'd play this fight, which I think is, not exactly super sharp. I imagine most people are kind of thinking about this fight that way as well. All right, moving on down.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, you go ahead. No, we can move on. Doesn't matter.
Did you? Yeah, you can add whatever you got to do.
No, I was gonna say it's another good live betting opportunity because if Medic comes out there and puts it on strong on Jalin Turner in the first round, maybe hurts Jalin Turner a little bit. I think Turner is able to, if he survives the first round, he'll have the pace. First of all, we've seen him go those later rounds. And also, you look at his last 2 wins, Josh Kulabau, he landed 55 significant strikes through 8 minutes. And then the Brock Weaver fight, his next time out, he drops him twice and lands 66 significant strikes through 9 minutes. So neither of those fights went to the third round, and he was well on his way to landing over 100 significant strikes. Whereas Medic, we're questioning, can he go into those later rounds? Even if he can, that's a hell of a pace. He's bang or bust. He's knockout under 1.5. If this thing goes beyond a first round and you get a big plus money play on Turner, he's still alive, his pace should be able to take over late. So maybe just have a good, because we got this low on the priority list, maybe look at this from a live betting standpoint instead.
I don't know what to expect from Martin Sano, who is a +360 underdog to Matthew Semelsberger. Semelsberger can be had for -490. What? This Martin Sano has not fought since 2017. He had a draw against Diego Herzog in Bellator. He lost the previous fight there against Don Muhammad and lost to Dominic Waters, who I remember Waters from his little run in the UFC. Didn't do great in the UFC, so he lost a unanimous decision to him. Got knocked out by Don Muhammad and a majority draw against Diego Herzog. The only reason he's on this card is because he's boys with the Diaz brothers. Kind of hilarious. Interesting that they picked Semelsberger as the guy. Like, this is the guy that they were like, this is our worst guy on our roster. Like, what? How did they come to this? Like, is this the only guy that was available that they thought maybe, just maybe, they can get a win? Or do they see something? Or they were just happy to get whatever? I mean, it's really, really weird to see Matthew Semelsberger as a near 5-1 favorite, but frankly, this is a contender series fight. At very best, this is a contender series fight. And we see those types of lines kind of all the time, where it's clearly one guy is supposed to win, is supposed to get the contract, and the other guy's just being brought in, whether it be short notice or he just happened to be there when they were looking for guys at the gym. Do you know what do you got on this Sano guy? Does he have any sort of shot? Is Semelsberger a lock of all locks? Is Sano supposed to be a bit of a grappler, isn't he?
Yeah. Well, he's another one of these Diaz Academy guys. He's got good grappling. He's actually got pretty decent cardio as well. So I expect him to probably be able to fight over the course of 3 rounds. But again, it's hard to gauge because he hasn't had a pro fight in 3.5 years. He hasn't won a pro fight in 5.5 years. Sorry, no, he hasn't won a fight
Since 2014.
6.5 years. 6.5 years since this guy's won a fight. Almost 7 years. Pretty crazy. But at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, MMA is a crazy thing. I think what people are over realizing, because they're only looking at the top part of his record, is he actually does show a submission victory over Jeff Neal, and it's just his second pro fight. Jeff Neal obviously went on to be a pretty decent fighter. So no doubt about it, he can grapple. He is a black belt. It just hasn't translated particularly well in MMA. And the reason that is his wrestling is just not good enough. Yeah, it's hard. If you have great jiu-jitsu, but you're not getting these guys to the ground, you're forced to stand with them. And standing with them hasn't been going his way. Against Dominic Waters, Dominic Waters has a long, lanky frame, but he's got decent grappling in his own right. Keep the fight standing, control where you want to take it. The Dom Muhammad fight, I mean, it's over before it gets going, gets knocked out. And then to have a majority draw against Diego Herzog, a fellow 4-2 opponent, that's the end of it. It's just, he hasn't looked great, although it just doesn't look like an MMA fighter, right? He's a good grappler. He's got good cardio. Maybe he could be doing some sport jiu-jitsu. We haven't seen him compete at any notable tournaments. He doesn't go to these, underground grappling matches. He doesn't go to anything notable. He's largely just float under the radar. But he's one of Diaz's guys. And so this isn't unusual at all. First and foremost, we've already seen the Diaz brothers do it. Remember when Chris Avila came and fought on he fought Artem Lobov on an undercard for Nate Diaz? It's like, why was Chris Avila fighting in the UFC? Well, he's a Cesar Gracie guy. Did you realize, you got your computer in front of you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Check out Chris Avila right now.
Chris Avila.
Yeah, so Chris, just go to Tapology, put in Chris, A-V-I.
I'm typing in his name.
Yeah, of course you got it.
Chris Avila, 8-9 now.
Yeah, so look at his record when he came into the UFC.
No,
right?
I remember when he showed up to take on Artem. The GOAT.
Yeah, dude.
He took on the GOAT.
I know, but he had the same record. He was 5-2, right? He was 4-2. He won a fight. He came only because it was Diaz versus McGregor 2. Nate was like, you don't think I can get drawn this card, dog? I won the last fight. I got some pull. That's why he was on the card. Mm-hmm. He loses to Artem Lobov. They book him against Enrique Barzolo. He loses. Then he lost to Ricky Palacios on the regional scene, and then Jamal Emmers, and then Horacio Gutierrez. Beat a 10-11 opponent, and then lost to a 4-3 opponent, a 6-5 opponent, and then recently has defeated a 1-2 opponent and a 9-32 opponent to rectify his record. Because previously you're seeing 8-9, but he was 7-9, having lost 6 of his last 7 fights since the UFC released him. Shouldn't have been there, but had some pull, had a buddy. Remember when Anderson Silva fought Israel Adesanya, and everyone's like, holy crap, man, why would you do that? And he's like, and then it translated to, my buddy Marcos Mariano would also like to fight. And they paraded this guy out against Lando Venata. It was embarrassing. Oh man, that was embarrassing. So there's a precedent here, right? This is true. I don't care if you work factory job, you work construction, you work in sales, you work in fitness, you work in any walk of life, right? Any walk of life. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And it's not what this guy knows, it's who he knows, and that happens to be Nick Diaz. Nick Diaz is the reason he's on this card. So how does he match up against Semelsberger? Semelsberger is big for this weight class, 6'1" at 170 pounds. He's a big physical guy. I'm not saying his takedown defense is great, but he's strong. He's hard to peel on the ground. I would have liked to have seen a little more volume out of him in his last fight against Chaos Williams. I thought that was a close competitive fight, and I thought he could have won it. He just needed to do a little bit more, but you have to remind yourself that it's difficult to say, do more against Chaos Williams, because like at any moment, he's going to just chuck a bomb at your head. Like it's a very dangerous, risk-adverse type fight. And here he comes in, he uses his counter wrestling, keep the fight standing, bop this guy up, wear him down. I think Semelsberger wins. Is there a world that exists that you'd want to pay 5-1 over Matthew Semelsberger? No. And this should be a contender series fight. And if you saw it as a 5-1 in contender series, you might also think, I want no interest. So a definite buyer beware, just because he's one of the bigger favorites on the card. and there's just a big clear narrative here that you don't want none of this Nano guy. It's still a 5-1 proposition on Semelsberger. So I ain't going to go against that. I do think he gets the job done. But I just think at this point, everybody's on the same page and the line's been steamed up. And taking on a grappler, who knows? There's always going to be an opportunity for a submission, but Semelsberger has been submitted once in his career. It was a long time ago. I expect him to be ready to go here.
Yeah. I'm just looking through the, it's only the top 50 middleweights in the world on Tapology. Yeah,
Welterweights.
This fight's is that middleweight? I thought it was a middleweight.
Yeah, I thought it was 170 because he's a monster 170. Semelsberger is. I don't know how big he'd be at 185 to be perfectly honest with you.
Let's see here. Now you're throwing me off codes.
Well, he would have fought Carlton minus Jason Witt and Chaos Williams are all welterweight.
Oh, you're 100% right. No, it's definitely welterweight. They may have even said welterweight. I just saw Sano had fought at 185 his last fight, which was 4 years ago. All right. Well, I'm trying to think of like who can't. They should have brought like Krista Dulu back. What's that guy up to? Maybe that would have. Yeah, Anthony Krista or CM Punk. CM Punk, Martin Sano.
Oh, this guy would kill CM Punk. As much as we were saying he's got no chance against Semelsberger, he would run right through CM Punk. He's a BJJ black belt. This thing wouldn't get out of the first round.
Sure.
And his wrestling is good enough to take down CM Punk. Not good enough to take down a UFC fighter.
Maybe Conor McGregor's got a friend that needs a fight or something like that.
Artem
Like Semelsberger should absolutely trash this guy. All right. Finally, we got Omar Morales taking on Jonathan Pierce. Omar Morales minus 155 favorite. Pierce can be had for plus 135. Who you got here?
I'm going to take the underdog shot here and go with Jonathan Pierce. JSP, not quite as effective as GSP, but I like what I see out of him. I like backing these guys that kind of mix in the wrestling with the striking, but have great volume, great pace, great cardio, and are able to take you into some deeper waters and kind of drown you. That's the kind of style that I like. You could be down around, but you're not going to get tired. You're not going to quit on yourself. And I like what I see out of JSP. Obviously, we're never going to be able to talk about this guy, not talk about the Joe Lozon fight, but I think he's doing the best he can to put that in the rearview mirror and, kind of show everyone he's different than that. When he was on the Contender Series, he looked good, not in the sense that he's clean and he's crisp and he's a refined product, but 142 significant strikes landed, 4 takedowns, and he finished the thing 2 minutes into the third. So everything you would have wanted to see out of a guy, great pacing out of him. Unfortunately, he takes a fight with Joe Lozon in Boston. And that's where it's a serious problem. Beating Joe Lozon's tough enough as it is. Beating Joe Lozon in Boston, near impossible. Ask Dan Lozon about that. So he comes back in the Kaikara France fight, and I cashed an underdog ticket on him there based on Kaikara France seemed like he had suspect cardio and allows the pace to get away with him sometimes. And with JSP, he comes out there, and it's the same thing. He's mixing in the takedowns extremely well, but it's the pace. It's the volume. He eventually tires you out because you're trying to match him tit for tat. And once you start to get tired, he's able to take around. He's excellently trained. He's always in good shape. He's still a young guy. I think he's only 28 years old, making improvements. I think he's going to be able to go out there and hopefully wear on Omar Morales. Now, when you look at Omar, let's say we're just going to talk about his 4 fights in the UFC. Dong Young Ma, 32 strikes landed, 32 significant ones. They're pretty much the same thing. Over the course of 15. Very low output. And Dong Young Ma, the fake stun gun, not known for his chin, right? So not knocking him out, kind of a knock on him, but it was the low output. It was the most takeaway. The Gabriel Benitez fight, he looks as good as he has in the UFC, but only does land the 63 significant strikes. Against Giga, in hindsight, we're going to give him a pass because Giga just is turning out to be a world beater, but he only does land the 34 significant strikes. And then his last time against Shane Young, this is him full throttle with 2 takedowns and 69 significant strikes landed. So I think that in a full 15-minute contest, all 4 of his fights have gone to decision. He's fighting some durable guys, some chinny guys. They go to decision. So Omar's power, I don't want to underrate it, but I don't think it's as big as people thought it was when he's on the Contender Series or what it was when he's on the regional scene. I think he's a more guy that's going to go 15 minutes. And over the course of 15 minutes, if he doesn't knock out Jonathan Pierce, I think Pierce is going to start to take over with the volume. And if he's able to mix in takedowns, wear on this guy, tire him out, he's going to have a lot of success. The one thing I am worried about with Omar Morales is that calf kick. Good God, that thing looks deadly, man. And against anybody, it could do a lot of damage. It could take away your lead leg. Now all of a sudden you can't shoot for those takedowns. Now all of a sudden you're a stationary target. Now all of a sudden he beats you. I am worried about his low calf kick. But beyond that, even though he's made improvements, even though he's big at this weight class since dropping down to 55, I'm going to take the underdog shot, and I think that Pierce is able to work him and get a decision victory, or maybe a late stoppage down the stretch. But more often than not, probably just secure 2 of these 3 rounds and get the win.
I'm not going to step in front of you on that one. That's a fight that I'm going to probably stay away from. I don't feel like I've got a great edge, but because I've seen a lot of smart people talk about how they like Moraes in this spot. I don't feel like I was able to get Pierce right literally at any point. I think we thought that Joe Lozon was like on death's door when he showed up and absolutely just destroyed this guy. And I think that was the first and last time I had ever bet Pierce, and I was just like, I don't know what to do with this guy anymore. Sometimes you just kind of know that it's like certain guys are just going to cost me money. He seems to be one of those guys, but I hope that you cash your Pierce wager if you decide to do that, plus 135. All right. I haven't made any bets yet, but the pieces that I am considering this week, Volkanovski minus 170. I'm already I made one bet. I'm on the over 4.5. I got a little bit of a better price like 3 weeks ago. These lines have been out for a while, but Volkanovski, Hooker are 2 money lines that I like here. I think I'm gonna go to Andrade inside the distance, plus 150. Merab round 3, because I like these long shot props. They get me wet, Cody. They get me excited. And plus 1,200, I could definitely see it playing out. But that's more of a fight, Merab versus Moraes. More of a fight that I'm I want to make sure that I wouldn't be touching the minus 260 because I think I can get a better price. And I want to make sure that Merab's head doesn't get knocked off because I still do respect Marlon Moraes, at least in that first round. Super, super dangerous. Doc is inside the distance, plus 100. That's a spot I'll be getting on. And I want to touch up the under 2.5. And I may throw a little bit on the under 1.5 just based on how Uros Medic's fights play out in general. But under 2.5, probably like either a parlay piece, may even be able to hit it straight up. I don't see that at many shops right now. But that's where my head's at. Obviously, I'm at Paul Shag on Twitter. On Saturday, I will have all of my plays for the people to tail or fade. I don't really care. I just hope that I make money. All right, we're just about out of time here, Cody. You know the drill. Hit him with the PRP.
Hit him with the PRP. We're going to go with Alexander Volkanovski, the over 3.5 anyways. And then I'm thinking I'm going to go Volkanovski by decision. We're going with Valentina Shevchenko, the over 2.5. We're going to go with Robbie Lawler by decision, Curtis Blaydes by decision, Jessica Andrade by decision, Merab Dvalishvili by decision, Dan Hooker by TKO, Chris Daukaus by TKO, Taila Santos by decision, Jalin Turner by TKO. I could inside the distance on that one, and don't go TKO, not necessarily, but I'll go inside the distance on that one. Carl Roberson, I'd love to go inside the distance, but it's just going to be a straight up play if anything. Matthew Semelsberger. You would think inside the distance, really. That over 1.5 kind of looks decent at minus 105. And then wrapping it up, we got what is this? The lone underdog play? That can't be good. Jonathan Pierce plus 135. Ripping through quickly. Do we only have the one underdog? I got Jalin Turner. What's up? Jalin Turner saving the day.
I mean, I'm still considering Roxy, man. That line is just so wide. And I think it's gonna keep. I mean, it opened at like minus or plus 190. And it's just been, nobody wants to bet Roxy. And I understand why. But at a certain point, you just have to kind of blindly just like, plug your nose and take the plunge. But we'll see. We'll see weigh-ins. We'll see how this all kind of shakes out as the week goes on. I can tell you, nobody, the lines across the market just seems to keep growing right now. So patience is a virtue. May get a better price on Roxy and pray.
If you're an underdog hunter specifically, Ortega's definitely live, and Nick Diaz would be considered live. Jairzinho Rozenstruik would be your dog of the weekend because, like Paul's saying, plug your nose and dive in. Plus 245, plus 400 by knockout.
Plus 400 by knockout is
why not? He could be your dog of the weekend for sure. I think Cynthia's live, and 220 certainly a decent price tag. Don't care for Marlon.
I don't really think Cynthia's
honestly don't
live.
Care for Nasrat. I always do. I don't care for Abdurakhimov even though he's live. I know you're on Roxanne.
I'm not on it
those,
yet.
those are the underdogs. You got 3 or 4 good underdog selections, right?
It.
Obviously, there's probably going to be somebody that ruins a parlay here or there. It's all about keeping the main core together.
I don't do the parlay game anymore.
Parlay game's a hot game. I just want people to realize, right? I was explaining this to someone the other day. I was like, you've got $500. They're like, yeah. I'm like, okay. So the first week you lost $100. And he's like, yeah. I'm like, the second week you lost $100. He's like, yeah. The third week you lose $100. He's like, yeah. The fourth week you lose $100. Yeah. The fifth week your last $100, you hit a plus 650. Well, how much money would you have in your account? He's like, $750. I'm like, right. So you'd have 750 and you started with 500. He's like, yeah. I'm like, do you look at that like you lost 4 weeks in a row? Or do you look like that like you're profitable? And so I think that's a misconception about parlays is people just assume we're going to hit them every single weekend. It's always going to be a walk in the park. It's MMA. It's sports betting in general. Something crazy could always happen. And I feel like we're not just getting bad reads as much as just bad bounces. And in the fight game, we're going to get good bounces and bad bounces. It's slight. It's narrow. But you're 100% right. If you have $20 and you're hoping to wake up on Sunday morning with $40, to play it safe, right? If you're $100 better and you would want to wake up with $150, there's a good 2-to-1 play that you can invest your money in. If you're at the bar with your buddies, you got $20 in your pocket, you want to make a couple hundred and pay for a round of drinks, you bet parlays, right? It's fun. It's exciting. Sure. And last but not least, people want to know the take on the whole card, right? Because some people, they want $1 or $2 bet on every card, on every fight. And some people, they just pass altogether. But at least when you make the parlay, you rank everything from your most confident, that's your top ticket, your 1 and 2. And I always put the first guy before the second guy. It's your most confident the whole way through. And that segues me perfect to end this segment off by saying we are giving away, we've been running this contest the last week. It's buy a share in a racehorse, right? So we've got an excellent group of guys. Pat Mayo's on board, Paul Shaughnessy's on board, Jeff Feinberg's on board. I have a list of all the guys. I don't know if they want me to read their name out on air. If you're okay with that, shoot me up a DM. We're going to have a big group chat going. But anyways, main thing is we're purchasing a racehorse for the 2022 season. Going to have a lot of fun with it. And I wanted to give away 1% to the fans because, of course, this show not made possible without the support that we've always received from the community. And if you're still watching this show right now, this late into it, you are an old school fan. You are a hardcore fan. You are somebody that supports us. And I would like to give back to you. So we're going to play the PRP game. You don't necessarily have to hit the PRP, but if you do, you get the 1%. If it's just, unless there's a tie, we'll have to go to tiebreak rules. But list it from most confident all the way down to least confident. And whoever gets the most consecutive picks in a row, like the show.
What, in the comments section?
It'll be I'm going to put out a tweet. You have to like the tweet. You have to retweet it. And you just have to put your picks, most confident to least confident, in the comment section. If you like, you retweet, you have the most consecutive picks, you're the winner. You get 1% for the 2022 season. It's a $500 US value. And of course, we're hoping to give you back $1,000 return. You could get $100 back return. You will get something out of it. No matter if the horse doesn't race well, there'll always be a monetary return coming your way. But all the same, as a reward, jump back in on the action with us. We appreciate all the support, always have over the years. And I think this would be a cool little contest giveaway. So this show's launching tonight. We've recorded today. It's going to be out Wednesday night. The tweet will be out, and you will have until the fights start on Saturday to get that in. And then just as an example, last week, I got 6 in. Let's say you get 6 in a row, right? But Tony, or you could. It doesn't even matter. No example. Let's just say there's 13 fights on this card, and you go 11 for 13, but the fourth guy in a row does it. You're out. You're out. It's consecutive picks, most confident to least confident. I'll tweet out some more stuff about the contest details, but just to give you guys a heads up. And best of luck to everybody. Thanks for always being in our corner.
And for anybody who's bought into the horse,
you can
just
have
let
option.
It be known we told Andercust that he can't be involved because we don't want the horse getting turned into glue.
If you have already purchased a 1% share in the horse, you are still more than eligible to enter the contest. If you win, you have an option. You can either have 2% on the racehorse for the year, or I'll send you back the refund on the 1% you've already purchased.
But this has been very... Continue.
Yeah, go ahead.
Continue your...
No, it's all good.
No, I was just saying that.
That was about it. We're just shooting the shit at this point. We've talked fights. We've talked a little horse racing.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm excited to get things going. And maybe it's Nick Diaz fight week, so there's a little something extra in the atmosphere. But yeah, I'm pumped up, buddy.
Yeah, we just wanted to make sure that the horse, very uncursed, not a cursed horse. Even Tim loves horse racing. I think he's like kind of upset that like we wouldn't let him in, but it's like we know what happens when the Ander curse takes over. It's just like, it would just be bad. It would be bad news for everybody. I don't even know. I don't even know if I want him. We're gonna make a Twitter group. So every single person that reached out to you has a Twitter profile. We're gonna make a Twitter group so we can all kind of sweat the horse races together, which should be a good time.
Yeah. No, with Tim's actually pretty decent on like Kentucky Derby picks and whatnot, but I think the general curse around him, maybe keep him on the outside. I think the real move is we get a good pari-mutuel start. We let our horse get up to some good odds, maybe get him out of 20 to 1, 30 to 1, some nice ticket opportunity. And we get Tim to come in and bet the field.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody but our horse, right?
Mm-hmm.
How could you lose then? Some type of whack accident. Hopefully the animal doesn't get hurt, but something unforeseen would definitely happen, and hopefully puts us in a great position to win. But all the same, the horse is going to be able to race, hopefully, knock on wood, can race 30 times a year. So there's going to be lots of opportunity to get on the action, watch the races. Even if you miss a week, there's always going to be another one. And I think there'll be the group chat. We're going to send out video updates, and you'll always kind of be in the loop. Whether you care or not, you want to tune in once in a while, and totally fine. But if you ever need anything, and it's going to keep everyone as involved as we possibly can. So should be a lot of fun.
The way
it'd be a lot more fun if we crush UFC 266, make all that money anyways, and then everything else is just gravy.
Yeah, the way that I look at it is it's $500. I've wasted $500 in much, much more egregious ways. And it seems like $500 for a year of entertainment, it should be a good time. I'm not expecting to become freaking rich off of this. Hopefully we do become rich off of it, but yeah, it's $500 for the first year, and then obviously you'll follow up with like other fees from that. But yeah, I believe registration's already closed for that for everybody. So everybody else watching right now, like, hey, I want to get in the horse. Me and Cody actually talked about this before we got on, and I said, well, there's thousands of people watching the show, listening to the show. Maybe for like the 50 people that are involved, maybe it's unnecessary to bring it on the program. So you can yell at Cody, and if he's not he's not allowed to let anybody else in at this point. So you missed your opportunity.
But I wish us luck all the same. Hopefully we can do it again next year.
Yeah, if it really takes off, we'll buy more horses. Anyway, that's it for us this week. Hope you enjoyed the show. For Cody Saftik and producer Matt, I'm Paul saying goodbye and good luck.